understanding as human beings that comfortable feeling or pleasurable feeling is a good, and an uncomfortable or painful feeling is bad. The Buddha teaches us that the pleasurable feeling is suffering, and the painful feeling or the unpleasant feeling is also suffering. Now, why is this? How is this? Because that pleasurable feeling is unreliable. It is impermanent. It's temporary. It's fleeting. In the same way that the uncomfortable feeling is suffering, of course it is not satisfactory. We don't want that. But that uncomfortable feeling is also reliable, also not stable. And even though that particular feeling or experience, that particular sound, sight, thought, feeling, seems to be separate from everything else, actually it's not. So something that you may point to or be aware of in your direct experience that is painful or pleasurable can seem to be separate from everything else. But if it is anything, it is a sign or a pointing to everything. And not so easy to get locked into complicated thinking or stress or worry about everything. We can barely keep up as human beings with even one or two things, right? Even a daily schedule is difficult to follow. So the question becomes, or the answer becomes, what is the problem? It is our attachment. It is our grasping. It is our constant proclivity, our constant habit energy to hold on and to identify with phenomena. Whether those phenomena are pleasurable or unpleasurable, likable or unlikable, ideal or not ideal, it's more true to say that they simply are as they are. And what they are is a sign of the truth. What they are is a representation of the nature, the true nature, the original nature. But when we grasp, when we attach to, when we identify with, when we get tangled up and bogged down by and worked into these feelings, because we're seeing these feelings as being something reliable, we're seeing these experiences, physical experiences or mental experiences, as being in some way permanent, as being in some way reliable, as being in some way stackable, right? Like, oh, I'm having this thought, it corresponds to this feeling in the body, and also my day was like this today, and also this person and that person, and all these thoughts and all these experiences stack up, and we fall into this way of life or this experience that is really defined by just two factors: ignorance and attachment. The ignorance is that we don't see the true nature of these phenomena. We don't see the impermanence of those sensations in the body. We don't see the impermanence, or we don't remember, we don't recognize the impermanence of those thoughts, those feelings, those perceptions, those notions that come up in the mind. And so we become trapped by them. We're ignorant to their true nature, to the true characteristics of these phenomena that we encounter, whether they're material, such as the experience of the body at this moment or whatever moment, and mostly these mental phenomena, these thoughts, ideas, stories, perceptions, feelings, emotions. They're temporary. They are exhausting themselves all the time. And yet, when we don't see that, when we don't remember that, when we don't recognize that, we're in a state of ignorance. And then the other defining quality or aspect of the situation that we're in is that we are grasping onto these phenomena. We're grasping onto these ideas. We are attached to these feelings in the body. Now, if you are attached to something that is impermanent, if you're attached to something that is not separate from everything else, so the mere notion of attaching to that as a separate entity is confused. It's a confused attachment. It's not realistic. It's not reliable, right? And that really these phenomena, these things that we encounter, thoughts, feelings, forms, physical sensations, we feel happy, we feel depressed, they don't actually give us satisfaction, because how many times have you eaten delicious food? How many times have you had a pleasant or a pleasurable experience emotionally or physically, what have you? It's not reliable. So the question is to grasp or not to grasp, to attach or not to attach. And the answer is, kind of goes without saying, detach. Mindfulness and detachment. And this mindfulness and detachment is active, engaged, alive. It's something we have to step into. It's in that way, it's almost kind of similar to exercising, but it's more profound, it's more important, it's more relevant to our lives as a whole than physical exercise. But it's the mental exercise of getting up, getting moving mentally, and to practice mindfulness and detachment. Mindfulness is to be aware of what's happening in the now. Let's call it the now. What's happening now? And this moment of inspiration, or this moment of mindfulness, this action of mindfulness now is a point of value. Don't minimize it. Don't put it into a box. It's profound. This present moment action of mindfulness. And we can talk all day, every day about being enlightened and impermanence and the truth and, how we understand the world, we understand our reality. But it's something very different to penetrate into the present moment action of mindfulness now. That's what insight is all about. That's what this path is all about. The now making. Making the way, practicing the way in the now. So mindfulness now of, instead of jumping from this to that, jumping over there, jumping over here, what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next? You have to forgive, you have to abandon, you have to break out of that what's next mentality, that what's next mindset. And practice to be engaged with the present moment action of mindfulness, the present moment action of awareness of what's happening now. You have to concentrate to be able to do that. You need your concentration, and to engage with concentration, you have to have some sincerity, you have to have some interest, you have to have some curiosity there, some motivation behind it, some intention there to fuel that concentration, to be aware of what's happening now. Within yourself, within your body and mind, within the body and mind that is over there. Let's take a few moments to do that together. Concentrate with mindfulness. Relax the body and mind. looking very closely into what's happening now. We're not trying to get into a state. So you don't need to be trying to do some kind of big project. We're not trying to get into a state, but just to concentrate enough for the body to be simple and stable enough to relax the body and mind, relax the whole body and mind, relax the whole life story. And with breathing, awareness of what's happening now. And noticing and watching very kind of easily and accessibly how every sensation, every sound, every feeling in the body, every thought is really temporary, kind of coming and going moment by moment. You can notice that in your practice. Detach or abandon the idea of what you're supposed to be experiencing or what you want to be experiencing. Just put that down. All those thoughts, all those expectations, all those explanations, all those goals, all those fears, they are irrelevant in the scope or from the place of everything, the everythingness of just this. They're irrelevant. And when we practice meditation in this way, that's just something that comes up. And that's the kind of the freedom aspect, the joy aspect. We get these little liberation, this taste of liberation in our heart mind when we notice that all those fears, all those plans, everything that we've built, the whole story and narrative about our lives, it's not that we're rejecting it or trying to get rid of it, but in these moments of awareness and detachment, it's irrelevant. It's temporary. It's not reliable. It's ungraspable. We stop that machine of grasping, that machine of chasing after. We forgive the past. We forgive the future, and it's just this. This present moment, noticing. Dropping for a moment, dropping at this moment any and all ideas, really, truly, about how this is supposed to be. That's a real meditation. That's a true meditation practice, when in these moments of breathing, in these moments of just sitting, in these moments of awareness, kind of concentration, relaxation, not getting too attached, too bound up in what is experienced, there's things happening. There's thoughts happening. There's tensions in the body happening. There's feelings. There's all these things happening. So to really fully abandon and put down this idea of, I want it to be like this, or it's supposed to be like this, or I am this kind of person, or this kind of situation is going on, or it's a nighttime, or it's a daytime. All of these ideas or these thoughts in true meditation practice become just thoughts. Something to be mindful of, something to be aware of, something to be detached from. And that detachment isn't so much like an energy that you need to use force, or that you need to get rid of something. It's more of an allowing for the temporariness, the fluidity of the mind and the fluidity of experience to just be fluid, to just flow. And what doesn't flow, you notice that, and you give your mindfulness, or as someone like Ajahn Brahm would say, you give your kindfulness to that. Right? We're also, when we practice meditation like this, we're building up our kind centration to this. This is the most important one right here. This body and mind. And this time, this moment, this experience, this is the ultimate one. Come on. You're waiting for the election results. You're waiting if Kamala Harris or Joe Biden is going to win the election. Look, this is it. This is that moment. So make your vote, and make the vote of mindfulness. Make the vote of doing good deeds. Make the vote of allowing. But allowing has to be energized. It has to be energized in a corresponding way. The energy of allowing needs to have enough energy to meet the energy of the drowsiness or the sinking in a state, right? The dwelling in a state. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time, and you're getting yourself caught up in giving importance to that this is comfortable or this is uncomfortable. Doing good deeds is more important than comfortableness or uncomfortableness. From the Buddhist perspective, comfortableness is just as much suffering as uncomfortableness is suffering. Interestingness or curiosity is just as much engagement, is just as much suffering as boredom is suffering. So it's really a matter of this grasping, this attaching, this holding on to. And that doesn't mean detachment or not grasping is not rejecting. It's more along the lines of awareness, presence. Full presence, full listening, full non-judgment. Full not chasing. And sometimes that chasing energy, that jumping around energy, it becomes so habituated in us. We're always going from one thing to another. So what happens? What is the experience like when you say, okay, I'm not going to keep going from one thing to another in the usual everyday way that I go about that, right? Like, okay, now I'll have a cappuccino. Okay, I'll watch a new YouTube video. Okay, I'm going to go for a walk. Okay, I'm going to da-da-da-da-da. But now, as a call to action or as a call to non-action, What is it like when you don't do anything like that? When you close your eyes gently and relax the whole body and mind and are really mindful of this experience. What's that like? What do you notice in doing that? And this dramatic shift, this kind of revolutionary principle where your life and you, whoever you are and whatever your life is supposed to be, is right now. And that through that stopping and putting the body down and gently closing the eyes, relaxing whole body and mind, and looking and aware at reality, at direct experience, that's not some game, that's not some gambit, that's not some exercise we're doing so that we'll be fit or we'll lose weight, you see, or that we'll get somewhere. But really in this looking. What is seen? Now, when our minds are kind of rotted from constant YouTube, constant TikTok, or even constantly being in some kind of education system, memorizing, there's a dullness, there's a vagueness, there's a feeling of the mind being this kind of trap or this trick, right? And that's why if we want to have a good chance, a good opportunity to really examine the mind and work with the mind in a meaningful way, we have to follow the prescription that the Buddha gives, which is generosity and following precepts, and then we get into meditation. Because the mind is right here, just like the body is right here, right? This body that's so vulnerable, that's so temporary, that, not to be vulgar, but the body is already kind of vulgar, right? It's already kind of disgusting. The body, even though we don't see the inside of it, it's full of blood, it's full of pus, it's full of organs, disgusting, right? And so this body that can just die at any moment, it's profound, right? How fleeting, how temporary, how vulnerable life is. And that's just normal. That's not some special way of thinking. That's just normal. That the mind is even more subtle, even more changing, even more vulnerable, right? So when we stop long enough, when we have enough merits, when we have enough goodness, good cause and conditions to stop and look directly at the mind, we are seeing something or perceiving something that is literally, fundamentally, absolutely more relevant to your life than your job, than all of your money, than all of your relationships, everything going on outside. This moment of stopping and having a direct experience, a direct experience that is not defined by the conceiving of things, conceiving more and more about ideas and stories of what is seen, what is heard, what is thought about. We talked about yesterday, of this this philosophy or this approach of, oh, you had thought that, and then this stopping point. Or, oh, you had seen that, and then this stopping point. This is essential for mental health. This is essential for social health and emotional health. We need to have the power of stopping, of finishing, of cutting, right? So in the seeing right now, there's just the seeing. In the hearing right now, there's just the hearing. In the body being, the feelings of the body right now, there's just the feelings of the body right now. Now, on a surface level, or on like a story-based way of viewing yourself and viewing the world and viewing life, well then of course that's not relevant. That doesn't mean anything. But if we go beyond, or we step into this framework where, okay, if I'm being totally honest, I don't see a story. I don't see the story of my life. I don't see the story of my past. I don't see the story of my future. It seems to me that my life, and maybe what we're talking about here, what I'm talking about here is unpacking that. What is my life? What does that mean? Right? But it doesn't seem to be that it's a story at all. It doesn't seem to be that it's in the past or that it's in the future at all. It doesn't seem that way. And when we practice meditation in a realistic way, real meditation, meditation of mindfulness and detachment, that means we go beyond all the stories of our identity, of other people, of the environment, and we emphasize the present moment action of Neo waking up from the matrix. That moment of waking up from the matrix, because until you can develop that power, everything is a fog. Everything is a farce. Everything is fake. Everything, you can't even hear what's being said. You can't see what's right in front of you, because the mind is so caught up and bound up in conceiving about things. The mind is so caught in past and future and concepts and judgments and preferences, right? And what I'm trying to say here is that meditation and the path is not about preferences. It's not about opinions. It's not about judgments. Actually, these are the sufferings that the Buddha talked about. These are the emanations of grasping, the emanations of clinging, craving, chasing after, trying to avoid. Stop chasing after this and that. If that mindset of like, hey, how can I practice meditation? And, what's the best meditation app and what's the good meditation technique? If that worked, the world would just be full of enlightened, blissful, happy, peaceful people. Because those meditation apps have been downloaded millions and millions of times. So it's deeper than getting what you want. It's more profound than getting what you want. And this applies to all elements and all aspects of our life, from top to bottom. It's a reality principle. That the dharma, that the ending of suffering is not about you getting what you want. Ending suffering is not about you getting what you want. And actually, when we enter the stream of enlightenment, this is what it says in the suttas, we're actually dissolving that I. we're kind of more like releasing ourselves from, using a practical term, ourselves, we are being released from the notion that you are someone at all. And someone has to do something. Someone has to be somewhere. Someone has to do something. Someone has to be co-defined by other people. So when we're using the power of someone, or we're relying on this notion that I am someone, and then thinking about that constantly, it's very, very difficult to meditate in a natural way, because you're doing something that is breaking down all of the strings and all of the reliances of someone, of a self. When you practice meditation, you should practice meditation as if you are not somewhere. You should practice meditation as if you are not someone. So we say breathing only. And what is it like when you try that? When you try breathing only? But this get-rich-quick attitude, this get-rich-quick mindset, this mindset of getting what you want and approaching Buddhism, approaching spirituality, approaching meditation, approaching anything and everything from this place of getting what you want, that's why you're suffering so much. So it's a release into humble surrender. Truly. Because if we're generous enough and interested enough to practice sincerely, or to be interested in the path, Buddhism, enlightenment, right? Then when we ask these, when a monk or a teacher, someone, brings up these kind of profound questions, right? Like, who are you when you're not trying to get something or go somewhere? The answer is how you practice on the path. And if the answer is just something that you make up in 30 seconds, you're not serious about this. You don't care about this. You're not interested in these questions. You're just talking, just chatting, just jibber-jabber. We have to surrender into practice. We have to be humble enough to listen to Dharma teachers, Dharma talks, and just listen. But until we can bridge this divide between our ego that says, our kind of self-narrative that says, I like this and I don't like that, which in itself is okay because those are just preferences. That's not a problem. But the reification of that, the importance that we give to that, or the importance that we give to our opinion. Why is our opinion so important? Why is your judgment so important? Why is your idea so important? From my side, your idea is as important as it is based in generosity. Your opinion is as important as it is based in generosity, or as it is based in the Dharma, as taught by the Buddha, or the Dharma of sharing experience, right? Sharing your direct experience, sharing your understanding. There's that song, there's a famous song, The world is a vampire. Well, the world is only a vampire as much as you can't stop appropriating the world for yourself. That the world is somehow about you, that the world is somehow defined by you, that the world somehow belongs to you, that everything in the world inherently fits into your box. Oh, that's a black person. Oh, that's India. Oh, that's Buddhism. That's a monk. But not just like that. You're saying it as this appropriation of those identities, those peoples, without actually having experience. Because you don't have an ability, a capacity, because you haven't trained it to detach from your views, to detach from your opinions, to detach from your preferences, to detach from your ideas, which are largely non-practical, complicated thoughts that are not useful, not relevant, not helpful, that are not generous, oftentimes that are not kind, that are not considerate, that are not humble, that don't carry the beautiful philosophy of, oh, wait a minute, I might have no idea what I'm talking about. That's wisdom. Maybe it's like this, or maybe it's not. But that maybe it's not, and that maybe it's like this, is an invitation. It's an offering. It's an opening. Whereas we say, is this better or is this worse? Is it this story or is it that story? Maybe it's not a story. Maybe reality isn't a book, isn't a contrived combination of sounds and letters and symbols and names. Maybe that's not what reality is. Certainly not what a tree is, certainly not what the planet Earth is, certainly not what human beings are. Maybe it's not what reality is either. Stories, thoughts, ideas, concepts, beliefs. And then we get to the point, well, then what is it? How are we going to deal with it? How are we going to work with it? Wonderful. But to get to that point, that opening, that fertile ground of questioning and exploration and planting seeds for a new community, okay? We have to open ourselves, our heart, our mind, our sincerity, our authenticity to that questioning, to that dropping of biases, to that dropping of assumptions, to that dropping of opinions and preferences that are constantly sparkling around. We have to drop our belief and reliance and reification on grasping and attachment. Imaginary people can't practice anything. the idea of ourselves, the idea of our depression, the idea of our identity that is depressed, the idea of our identity that is so important, the idea of our identity that doesn't understand or that does understand is an illusion. Get to work. Practice. When situations come up, that's when they are to be dealt with. There's an attachment that somehow, some way, there's a rack of DVDs or there's a library of movies and TV shows that are you. Some of them you've already watched, some of them you've never watched but you have them, some of them you haven't watched yet and they haven't been released yet. These are all illusions. These are all just nothing, completely nothing. And we have to learn how to detach from these fake stories about our life, about other people, about other places, other situations, etc. These are just appearances. These are just movies. You have to step into direct experience. You have to step into this. The deeper that you step into this, the more seriously, the more wholeheartedly, the more real you get about developing your relationship with this, the more wisdom that will be there, the more clarity of what is happening now and the relevance of that. Where is the past? Where is the future? Can you even pick it up? Where is it at? Can you bring it here? Where is it? That's your past. That's your future. Who would you be if you didn't have your past and your future? Uncomprehendable. And you can't even bring that up. You can't even bring that forward. You can't even show that, right? So how much less so could I show some imaginary situation with some imaginary person? We're addicted to it. We're addicted to being someone. We're addicted to other people being someone. We're addicted to stories outside of our direct experience. It doesn't mean that those stories aren't real or that they aren't appearing, right? Israel-Palestine seems to be appearing, right? But what it means is because you're so locked into these ideas of stories out there, you're not really here. You don't have the heaviness of this reality. You don't recognize it enough to live a meaningful life, to plant the garden, to plant the seeds in your own garden. You're so focused on Israel-Palestine that you can't plant seeds in the garden of your own mind. You're not a global leader. You don't have weapons. You don't have safe houses to put these people in. You can basically do nothing in terms of the news cycle, right, about it. But what you can do is develop your mind. Develop your capacity to be real, to be right here and right now and working in this garden, in this situation meaningfully, healthy and wealthy, to do all kinds of good deeds. So a part of what this meditation path does is it puts us into a position of practicality, right? And I always emphasize it. I'm telling people, if people follow me and watch me and are looking at these teachings, you've got to follow the prescription. Otherwise, there's going to be no effect, okay? There's 4 kinds of people in the world, all right? The Buddha taught. One kind of people are like Mr. Bahia, And when Mr. Bahia heard a few words of the Dharma, he became enlightened. Another kind of person, second kind of person, is not like Mr. Bahia, but pretty close. Not a few words, but maybe a few paragraphs or a few sentences. A full Dharma talk, they get it. They get the enlightenment. Then most people, these two kind of people is very rare to find, very difficult to find these days. Third kind of person is like a person with a sickness. And they're not going to get it like these two kinds of people are, but they're a person with a sickness, and if they follow the instructions, if they do what they're told, then they will get better, they will improve, right? This is maybe a lot of people. The fourth kind of person is not going to get enlightened in this life. They're too boneheaded, and that quality of boneheadedness means that they just don't do what they're told. They go to a doctor. It's a kind of person that goes to a doctor because they're sick. The doctor tells them what to do, and then they don't do that. That person needs to die, literally, before they can get it, before they can even heal their sickness. So we have to really aspire to be like, to get it quickly, to listen in such a way that we really get it, but we need to also aspire to be the kind of person that is sick and going to a doctor and follows the instructions. It doesn't matter if it seems like a stupid question or it seems like a good question or a bad question. It's just nonsense. It is just impermanence. It is something to be mindful of. It's not something to fight with, okay? It's like if you see a real-life Pokemon, it's not something for you to fight with. You shouldn't kill Pikachu if a real-life Pikachu shows up, but you also shouldn't try to capture Pikachu. Because, what, you have a Pokeball? No, you don't know how to take care of a Pokemon. It's electric. You could die. So the answer is to detach from Pikachu. Abandon Pikachu, renounce Pikachu, and be freaking careful because Pikachu's made of electricity. And a lot of our questions and a lot of the things inside of ourselves are bound up in ignorance and attachment. Why do you think all these car accidents are happening all the time? It's because people have their eyes closed. Their eyes are full of mucus and dust, all right? Now, maybe you're not the worst person in the world, but you can still cause a lot of problems by being so bound up in ignorance and attachment. And by going to a doctor and not doing what they tell you to do. Okay, this is a Buddhist live stream. I'm a Buddhist monk. I'm here to tell people about what the Dharma says, what the Buddha says, okay, in general. Practice dana, practice generosity, do actions of generosity. That's your responsibility as someone who's trying to follow along with this kind of thing. Do actions of generosity. However big, however small, get out there and do them. Cleaning your room can be an action of generosity. Cleaning your parents' toilet can be an action of generosity. Donating, giving away your material possessions. Sharing your possessions with people, sharing your skilled, wealth-based skills, okay, with other people. Don't go to somebody's house and, you've been fermenting stuff you found in the dirt, worms and grubs, and you've been fermenting them, and you think that's wonderful because you eat it, and now you're giving it to people. That's okay, but better yet, how do you make money? What's your skill, right? What's your ability? What's your point of value? Take that point of value and offer that service. And if you're not a skilled person, then go out there and volunteer. Serve, help the old people, the sick, the homeless, the endangered, help the animals, whatever. You've got to do that. Because this is about a practice. This is not about a belief system. And you've got to bring the mind here before you can bring the mind there, before you can offer everything, offer the resolution, offer the finishing, offer the blessing. First, you got to bring the mind from up here, up in the clouds, up in the nonsense world of complicated thinking and just really being completely insane, which is okay, and bring that here, bring it to the heart. So the way that we do that in Buddhism, we bring the mind home to the body. We bring the past, future, complicated thinking, greed, anger, delusion, how we get all that under control. We bring that mind to the heart. And that is the heart of generosity. And that is also the heart of precepts. 5 precepts. Don't kill, respect all life. Don't steal, respect the properties of others. Don't lie, don't speak harshly. Okay, speak kindly and don't chit-chat about nonsense too much. It's just like eating a bunch of candy. You'll rot your brain out, rot your teeth out. Don't commit sexual misconduct. It means be very careful with your sexual energy, with any action, mental, physical, verbal, that relates to sexual energy. Be very careful. And number 5, don't take drugs or intoxicants. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You're not going to develop. You're not going to understand more than you do now. You're not going to become powerful if you can't even practice generosity and follow the 5 precepts. Any questions? So we come back in this live stream and at any moment, especially when we're here at a Buddhist temple, we're in Bodh Gaya, India, we're living our life as a monk, as a nun, as a yogi, as a meditator, as a Buddhist. Any moment, every moment, to stop. Stop. And of course, being in community helps a lot. Having a teacher, presence of a teacher helps a lot, but it's still going to be very difficult. So make use of that openness when it's there to stop. Breathe in, know that you're breathing in. Breathe out, know that you're breathing out. Now, how does this help? How does it help when we learn or when we practice to stop conceiving about things, right? Right, because the moment you start talking about meditation, the moment you start talking about practicing or Buddhism or realization, now you start thinking about more things. We don't see the value in stopping. We only see the value in going. We only see the value in getting what we want or avoiding what we don't want. But this practice, this training is how we really get what we want which is not to suffer anymore, not to be lost anymore in chasing after, in like being chained down to this journey, right? To stop. Stop trying to get something. Stop trying to go somewhere. Now, how this helps is just like it helps if you pay attention when you're driving, rather than thinking a million thoughts a minute, thinking about where your destination is and how you're going to get there, and then you screech into the wall and you die, and you take other people's lives along with you, because you were so lost in complicated thought. You were so lost in nonsense. You were so lost in ignorance and attachment. The ignorance, the not understanding, the wrong understanding is that you thought by getting what you want, you will be happier, you'll be free, you'll be at peace. But it's never worked before. Why would it work now? It doesn't work. Because what you want, even if you get it, it will still be impermanent. It will still be unreliable. Things going great is to be mindful of and not grasped onto. Of course, things are going great. In the same way, when things are going bad, is to be mindful of and not grasped onto, not attached to. Things going great is also suffering. Things going bad is also suffering. Unsatisfactory. So what the teaching is, don't grasp. Don't chase after. Don't seek. Don't make it about other people. Practice with it. Penetrate the mind. Penetrate the direct experiencing of just experiencing. Take all that greatness, take all that positive karma, take all that, etc., 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 and bring the mind home to direct experiencing. In the breathing. Anybody here know how to breathe? In the breathing, just the breathing. In the breathing, just the breathing. And this is your life. This is where your life is. When people are just constantly scrolling on TikTok, constantly watching movies, constantly eating, constantly going from here to there, searching, struggling, chasing after. Okay? You forget. You miss out. You're ignorant of the fact, the experience, that this moment is your life. And you can't even call it a moment. It's the everything. And this everything is being experienced through nowness, or through the presence, the awareness that is here. This here that is not somewhere. Okay? Now, about using the power of no self, or using the power of not someone, okay? Arc. Using the power of no self, using the power of not someone. Think about being in the ocean. You're swimming in the ocean, and you're worried about using the power of only a small piece of the ocean to swim. If you just expand your horizon of awareness, if you stop clinging, grasping this closed mind, you will realize that already you can't use a small part of the ocean. There is no someone, there is no self separate from everything. That's why this moment and this awareness is so profound. This direct experience now is so profound, so as to break down and transform and liberate all of this obstruction and complicatedness and suffering. Because there is no someone separate from everything. There is no some place separate from every place. There is no some situation separate from every situation. And that's right here, right now. And that's also not correct. Right here, right now is not correct, but it's giving you a pointer to kind of enter into the flow of stop conceiving about things. Is that really such a crazy idea? Is our society really so much built like being against this idea? Stop thinking about things. Stop thinking about things. Stop assuming up. Stop adding on to. Stop going on and on and on. Just breathe. Close your eyes gently if you can, without too much force or tension. And just breathe. Just breathing in is just breathing in. It doesn't need to be the same as a cheeseburger. It doesn't need to be the same as a TikTok video. It doesn't need to be the same as anything. Breathing in is just breathing in. And breathing out is just breathing out. Now we build our concentration when we practice like this. But we can also experience when we're practicing like this. You need a certain degree of concentration to know in this way, but we can really experience the impermanence that is in this natural, ordinary, direct experiencing. And this is wisdom. This is the insight of impermanence. The more that you look, the more that you are aware, without making more and more problems, more and more stress, more and more complicated, kind of tangled up self-situations, the more wisdom you will have. And the side effect from wisdom, kind of like the other side of the card of wisdom, is compassion. with wisdom goes along this sense or this feeling, this awareness of suffering, and the care, the consideration for that suffering to come to an end. So when we feel depressed, when we feel anxious, when our loved ones are going through something, some difficulty, we're going through some difficulty, we don't just recline back and kind of sink into it or try to cover it up with cheeseburgers. But actually we offer our attention, our presence, our awareness, perceiving that suffering, looking at that suffering very deeply, patient with this body-mind phenomena. And through that great compassion, there is sure to be a great release. We have to learn how to be patient enough to stick around for that great release. Stick around for that freedom moment, that impermanence moment, that transformation moment. It's not in the realm of getting what we want. It's more in the realm of the nature. The nature of impermanence is wonderful. The nature of no self is wonderful. The nature of suffering is wonderful, because the true nature of suffering is the release of suffering, is nibbana. Because suffering holds within it the cause of suffering. Once we perceive, once we recognize the cause of suffering, we can turn that key. Suffering stops. Peace opens. And when that peace opens, don't be in a hurry to try and get what you want. Don't be in a hurry to try to avoid anything. Dwell in peacefulness. Okay, any questions? Well, if you've been meditating for years and you're not getting any results, and you're serious about meditation and interested in Buddhism, we can certainly set up time to have a practice interview on Zoom or through Facebook or Skype or WhatsApp. And I'd be happy to talk with you and figure out what's going on. We should have good result. We should have powerful result when we practice meditation seriously, when we practice with the guidance of a teacher. It should be very, very clear that we're having results. Just in the same way that it's clear, like when we get depressed or when we get anxious or when things aren't going well. When we practice correct meditation with the instruction of a teacher, when we practice seriously, there certainly should be results. But sometimes our expectation for a certain kind of result can keep us from seeing the results that are there. All right, Joseph, you can send me an email and we'll set up a time, okay? All of my contact information is on the website, Monklife.one. And anyway, my name, Bhante Warapanyo. You can message me on Facebook. All the contact information is there. When we are able and willing to really stop putting so much importance on getting something outside of what is already here, that's when there's a paradigm shift. And you can go as deeply into that paradigm shift as you would like. But the premise is that, wait a minute, I'm not trying to get something over there. I'm not trying to become someone other than what I already am or who I already am. And maybe it can be understood in that sense as a kind of observing. Actually, meditation is a kind of observing of what's already happening, rather than trying to make something else happen. And a lot of people's intelligence is covered up or like clouded up because they don't practice meditation and they don't practice generosity and they don't follow precepts. If you follow precepts, if you practice generosity, if you practice meditation, your intelligence is very much likely to increase. Emotional intelligence, social intelligence, psychological intelligence, very, very likely for that to happen. Just in the same way that there are major differences between a successful and wealthy businessman and a poor young man working at McDonald's, there are also quite major differences between someone who is making merit, someone who is doing good deeds, someone who is practicing generosity, someone who is practicing meditation, and someone who is not. Especially concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. We have to take this seriously, just like we would take a big money job seriously. If you don't take it seriously in that way, it's never going to work. It's never going to help. It's just like you would never get that job. They would never pay you. Even if they hired you for some like great, amazing job and all you had to do is show up and do it, if you don't show up and do it, if you don't take it that seriously, okay, sure, you got the job. Sure, you can be a Buddhist. Sure, you can be a meditator. But unless you show up and take that seriously, you're not going to get paid. So why waste your time hanging out in the lobby or looking at the building? Isn't there something better that you could do with your time? I mean, is it better that you look at a Buddha statue rather than, contemplating doing evil deeds? Of course, but, we can do more than that. We can go farther than that. We can really shift the way that our life is. And through that, we can really shift the way that other people's lives are. We can shift the life of the community. We can build community. But first we have to build these positive states of mind and skillful ways and means within ourselves. Okay, I will turn off the live stream on TikTok, so if you want to continue joining, please join on the YouTube channel. Thank you. Resistance does not mean walls and fences. Non-resistance does not mean open space. If you can understand in this way, mind and matter are fundamentally the same. In the teachings, it says that all compounded things are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, and shadows. They are like dew and like lightning, and should be seen in this way. Compounded things is like a 2 rupee coin, or sunglasses, or a remote control for an AC, air conditioning, or this microphone, or this phone, or this body. Compounded, coming together of many different elements. In the teachings, it says that all compounded things are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, and shadows. They are like dew and like lightning, and should be seen in this way. What eye do you see with? When you have fully attained this eye, you will see the mountains, rivers, and earth do not ruin or adulterate yourselves. Nor do yourselves ruin or adulterate the mountains, rivers, and earth. There is no more sacred doctrine therein to make for understanding or obstruction, and there is no ordinary convention to make for understanding or obstruction. But can you believe it? If you can believe it, then consciousness conditioned by ignorance turns into endless meditation. If you can't believe, endless meditation turns into consciousness conditioned by ignorance. So maybe think for a moment how you see lightning, or how you see bubbles, or how you see waves. How you see dreams, how you see illusions. In the teachings, it says that all compounded things, all forms, feelings, perceptions, types of consciousness, right? Self-identified consciousness, all of these names, all of these forms, all of these mental experiences, all of these physical experiences, nations, bodies, tumors, cancers, sicknesses, all compounded things are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, and shadows. They are like dew and like lightning, and should be seen in this way. What eye do you see with? When you have fully attained this I, this dharma I, you will see the mountains, rivers, and earth do not ruin or adulterate yourselves, so that all phenomena, all of these compounded things don't ruin this true nature that you are, your true self. You are not someone. Nor do yourselves ruin or adulterate the mountains, rivers, and earth, so that this true nature cannot be adulterated, and this true nature cannot adulterate, cannot interfere, cannot make problem, cannot tangle. There is no more sacred doctrine therein to make for understanding or obstruction. So in this dharma world, where you cannot ruin or interfere with anything, you cannot adulterate, you cannot make a mess of anything, and nothing, anything cannot make a mess of you. In this kind of world, this world of non-interference, there is no more sacred doctrine to make for understanding or obstruction. There's nothing sacred, there's nothing ordinary, there's nothing holy, because it's a realm of suchness, it's a realm of interpenetration, it's a realm of interbeing rather than interfering. And in this world of interbeing, sacredness and ordinariness inter-are. So there's no sacred or separate doctrine, right? Ultimate doctrine to make for that you could get it, you could understand it, or in you not understanding it to be obstructed by, right? There's a sacred doctrine that you understand, or there's a sacred doctrine that you don't understand, and so now there's like a barrier or a block. And also, there is no ordinary convention to make for understanding or obstruction. So there's also nothing ordinary and plain and simple that you can make an understanding of or that can obstruct you. No obstructions, no understanding. But can you believe it? Can you believe in this world, this true world, this Dharmakaya, this Buddha world? Can you believe? Do you believe? Can you believe in peace, in freedom, in no self, in the truth of ever-new impermanent nature? Not someone experiencing, not something. If you can believe it, then consciousness, conditioned by ignorance, turns into endless meditation. So if you can believe this, then that head of yours that's so full of shit turns into endless meditation. But if you can't believe it, then this endless meditation turns into a head full of shit. Consciousness conditioned by ignorance. Okay, let's practice meditation together. Meditate together for about 20 minutes. So get comfortable. Natural body, natural mind, meditation. Sitting or laying comfortably. Bring the mind to the breathing. Close the eyes gently. Relax whole body and mind. During this meditation, let's try to stay with not breathing, but let's try to stay with in the breathing that's happening, to experience the just breathing. In breathing, just breathing. Everything extra that comes up in our meditation practice, what's the big deal? Breathing is still there. And in the breathing, just breathing. in the thinking, just the thinking. Whatever is aware of, that is stopping, ending, finishing, resolving. In the breathing, just the breathing. In the body, feeling, just the body feeling. In the hearing, just the hearing. In the thinking, just the thinking. Breathing, breathing. In what is thought, there is just what is thought. It's nothing. Any feeling of tension is just that feeling. It's nothing. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Any pressure, any pull, any push is just that. Just what it is at that experience. In the breathing, there is just the breathing. In the hearing, there is just the hearing. No story, no person, no situation, no coming, no going. In the breathing, just the breathing. in what is thought up, what is dreamed up. It is just that. It's nothing more. It's not a starting point, it's an ending point, it's a resolution point. The thought is itself a resolution to the thought. For that matter, it's a resolution to thinking altogether. Penetration into penetrating mind of awareness without conceiving about things. And in whatever arises, just that arising, not conceiving about things. The habit energy or the grasping mind always making up a trick, always making up a convincing point. The most convincing point is mindful enough to detach. Doesn't matter, doesn't have importance, just happening. In what is heard, it is just that, just hearing. In what is thought up, it's just thinking, it's nothing. And the breathing is just the breathing, not anything. refresh, restart, beginning again in the breathing, just the breathing. Not so much effort or force as much as it is an energized remembering, an energized direct perception of just the way that it is. Okay, you're welcome to open your eyes if they're closed or keep them closed. You can bring your hands together with me and we'll finish with chanting. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dharmam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sangam saranam gacchami. May all the merits dedicated in this practice be shared and offered out towards all beings in all directions. May these merits be received and rejoiced in. May it be, may it be, may it truly be. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.